Yorkton has always been the business hub of eastern Saskatchewan. With that comes a need for farmers, workers, and their families to store their money. With that, one of the first businesses in Yorkton was the V.H. Pickering and Company Bank. Built along North Front Street, the bank was opened in 1897. This would start a trend that would continue on to this day. I'm Hayden DeGrow, and I'm the Culture and Heritage Specialist for the City of Yorkton. I love learning history, and teaching people about Yorkton's past is a proud part of my job. Join me as I highlight fascinating people, places, and events from Yorkton's history and take you where these places can be found today. This is Yorkton Retold. Banks are everywhere. Even if you're on a farm in the most rural part of Saskatchewan, there is a bank near you. And nothing has changed in Yorkton really since the town's founding in the 1890s. When Yorkton moved from its original spot along the Little White Sand River, new businesses began to pop up. With this, a need to safely store money arose. V.H. Pickering, one of Yorkton's founding settlers, opened his own bank in 1897. Photos from this time are hard to find, but we are in fact standing in front of the bank's former site. Pickering kept his bank going successfully for 2 years, serving the original citizens of Yorkton. In 1899, the Union Bank of Canada arrived in town. The bank was headquartered in Quebec City, but was predominantly serving the prairies. Pickering sold his bank to Union that same year, which took over his operations on Front Street. As the century turned over into the 20th, businesses began to move to Broadway. To keep up with them, Union Bank did as well. In 1908, their new location was opened on the corner of 3rd Avenue and Broadway. Let's head up there to see the building. Here, we can see the former home of the Union Bank of Canada in Yorkton. Union Bank operated here for nearly 20 years, by which time its own finances began to fail. Royal Bank of Canada then bought the bank in 1925 and continued the finances of the location. In 1967, RBC moved down the street to its current location, and the Aholinsky Medical Clinic moved in. Though that did not last too long and the place is now vacant today, it is still a landmark of Yorkton. Speaking of landmarks, let's turn towards the east and head across 3rd Avenue. This building, now occupied by Alexander's Menswear, also has a financial history. In 1911, this building was constructed by the Bank of Toronto to add competition to Union Bank's efforts. Before the Bank of Toronto arrived, a 2-story wooden building housed the Bank of British North America right here. We'll get to them in a minute. However, it seemed that the Bank of Toronto's building was cursed from the start. Believe it or not, this bank was not robbed once, but twice. The first time was in 1931, when a man from South Dakota named Lyle Gibson felt his best economic solution would be to walk into the bank and hold it up. He made away with over $2,600, which today would be worth nearly $52,000. Gibson was later tracked to Fenwood and arrested. Not to be outdone, a man from Calder decided to make a withdrawal via gunpoint in 1941. Pulling out an undisclosed amount of money, a man by the name of C.H. Hoare raced back home. Dropping off his bounty in, of all places, the post office, he was later apprehended and the money was retrieved. The Bank of Toronto, later known as the Toronto Dominion Bank, moved out of the building in the 1980s, leaving it vacant for Alexander's Menswear. However, not all of the banks in Yorkton were lucky enough to survive into today. As we make our way west and arrive at the block between 1st and 2nd Avenues, we stand in front of a modern-looking bank. This BMO branch actually stands on the site of two of old Yorkton's landmarks, one of which is the most quintessential bank building this city has ever seen, the Bank of Commerce building. This bank, a predecessor of today's Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, or CIBC, built its branch in 1913 in the classic Romanesque style, with Doric columns holding up a stone pediment. The bank was soon finding itself right between community highlights, the Hudson Bay building and the Roxy Theatre. The HBC building housed Yorkton's primary department store, which sold everything a household would need in the early 1900s. Having a bank right next to the building was very convenient, as it meant the families could get the money needed to purchase items at the HBC. The HBC building still stands today as one of Yorkton's finest pieces of architecture. Sadly, the bank and the theater were not so fortunate. In 1942, the Canadian Bank of Commerce moved out when it merged with the Imperial Bank of Canada. The Bank of Montreal moved in that same year, occupying the historic place until the 1960s. By this time, the Roxy Theatre had fallen on hard times and closed, so the bank, by now just called BMO, bought it. BMO then unceremoniously demolished both buildings, replacing them in 1974 with the building and parking lot we see today. Finally, we slide back east one last time and arrive at a prominent red building. This curved facade is part of the Dunlop Block, one of Yorkton's largest and most prominent buildings. It was built in 1903. When it opened, the Bank of British North America occupied the main floor, a bank that was primarily for eastern cities. This offered those who had immigrated from eastern Canada a chance to transfer their funds from one branch to another. The bank later merged into BMO in 1918, who occupied the building before moving in 1942 to the place we just saw. Today, a hairdresser called Cutters occupies the building. Times have changed in Yorkton over the years, but the need for banks has not. Yorkton has a branch of Canada's major banks all over the city, all thanks to the city's prominent economy. Farmers, workers, and families still keep their money in these institutions, continuing a tradition that all started with a small local operation. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. See you next time, history buffs.